According to the Oxford Dictionary, a loophole is defined to be an ambiguity or inadequacy in the law or a set of rules. Now, that went a little over my head, so a slightly easier definition of a loophole would be an accidental technicality found in a rulebook that allows someone to avoid following the rules in a way that won't technically get them punished. Typically, loopholes are used by corporate bigwigs to try and avoid paying their taxes, but if you're clever enough, you can use loopholes to help you out in the Big Brother house. And certain players have. Sometimes they got away with it, but other times they weren't as lucky, and a new rule was made to counteract the loophole. But no matter what the outcome was, a loophole was found and exploited, and today we're gonna talk about them. If you aren't already, maybe think about hitting that subscribe button, and without further ado, here are 5 loopholes that players found and used in Big Brother.
What other girl would leave a message in Pretzels?
Rachel left me a message in Pretzels, and I knew that she wanted me to put up Matt.
Kicking things off, in Big Brother, there is a rule where you are not allowed to talk to the other house guests about splitting the prize money as an attempt to bribe them in the game. For example, you couldn't go to someone and say, hey, if you vote to keep me this week, or if you vote for me in the final 2, I will give you $10,000 of the prize money if I win. You are just not allowed to do that. Talking about splitting prize money is strictly prohibited. But Big Brother 17 house guest Vanessa Russo looked through the rulebook and found a loophole. You see, you can't incentivize the other house guests to work with you by offering up prize money. But it didn't say anything about offering up your own money. Outside of the game, Vanessa was a professional poker player, and she had accumulated a lot of money. So, Vanessa thought, why not use this loophole and use her own money to bribe players to vote her way? Unfortunately, the producers weren't too keen on this so-called loophole, and they informed Vanessa that she could not explicitly entice the players with money, regardless of if it were prize money or her own money. This didn't stop Vanessa, though, because she just shifted her strategy and stopped saying anything explicit. She would make comments to the Nolan twins, saying things like, if I win the game, those that helped me along the way will have a very nice Christmas. And I am very generous with my friends and family. Honestly, some of those comments were definitely towing the line that she was already towing pretty hard, but regardless, it was a fun loophole to see her try and abuse. However, still totally unfair, because the vast majority of house guests didn't have millions of dollars at their disposal before the game. But there's a reason that Vanessa is one of the greats, and her continued determination to use every single tool in her kit to push her through the game is a testament as to why.
All right, so look, I'm a professional poker player, and over the last 10 years, I've earned $4.5 million on the world circuit. I'm one of the top earning females of all time. While others might rely on their physical competitiveness,
I call.
Aces! I'm gonna be relying on my $4.5 million.
Up next, we have some loopholes dealing with powers in the game. When it comes to powers, there are a bunch of rules on what you can and can't do with them. But there are 2 rules that are very clear. You cannot lie and tell people you possess a power that you don't have, and if you do have a power, you cannot lie about what it does. However, with a little thinking, there are some clever workarounds to both of those rules, and 2 players found a loophole for each one. The first one we'll go over is about telling people you possess a power that you don't have. The idea behind this rule is to stop players from bluffing with ultimatums. Without this rule, you could go to the HOH and say, hey, I found this secret power that allows me to instantly evict the HOH that evicts me, so you better not send me home. To me, that's just not fun, so I get why you can't tell people you have a power that doesn't exist. But what if you don't actually tell them? What if, instead, you showed them something, and then let their imagination run wild with it? In Big Brother 10, Dan Giesling was constantly thinking of ways to push himself further into the game, but on either the Final 7 or Final 5, I couldn't find which one for sure, Dan had spent a night crafting a fake Veto made out of tinfoil, and it actually looked really good. Dan's plan was that if his back was pushed against the wall and he had no other way of saving himself, he would flash his makeshift Veto in the direction of some of the other players and hope that it was enough to get their paranoia racing. He wouldn't directly say anything to them, because then that is officially breaking that rule. But if he didn't actually say anything and the other players just saw the Veto, then that shouldn't technically break any rules. The fact that the producers never stopped him from making the fake Veto leads me to believe that this loophole was actually a legitimate workaround of the rule set, and is yet another bullet point on the never-ending list of Dan's creative, outside-the-box thinking.
See what the magic man has left in his wand. I'm just thinking through different scenarios. And
the POV is so huge.
I've had a lot of escaping acts in the house, and this could be my greatest escape yet.
Now that we've gone over that first rule about powers, we gotta go over the second rule. If you have a power, you cannot lie about what it does. In a similar vein to the first rule, this is in place to stop players from abusing any power they have by overinflating what it actually does. Each power given in the game comes with a specific set of instructions on how it works, and you can either share what it does with the other players or tell them nothing, but you can't add on anything extra when describing it to the others. However, if you look at the fine print, you might notice something. You can't lie about your own power. But it didn't say anything about someone else's power. In week 1 of Big Brother 20, house guest Sam received the Bonus Life Power app, which gave her the power to offer one of the first 3 evicted house guests the chance of coming back into the game immediately after their eviction. Sam informed another house guest, Tyler, about this power and told him what it did. However, since it wasn't Tyler's power, Tyler was allowed to lie about what it did. Tyler never had the opportunity to read the exact specifications of Sam's power, so anything he said about the power would technically just be speculation. And he used that little loophole to his advantage. He told Caitlyn that Sam had gotten this first power, but then he twisted what it actually was and made it seem like it could be used against Caitlyn if she didn't vote with Tyler in that first week, which eventually led to Caitlyn flipping on her alliance and keeping Sam in an extremely close 7-6 vote. Had it been Tyler's power, he would not have been allowed to lie to Caitlyn about what it did, but since it wasn't his power, he could say whatever he wanted since he technically didn't know for sure what it did, as he wasn't there to read the power's exact description when Sam received it. It's definitely a hazy line, since you could make the argument that since Sam wasn't allowed to lie about her power in the first place, then anything she told Tyler would have to be true, which would make his lies a bit more questionable, but regardless, Tyler found a pretty big loophole here, and he used it to make a crazy move in the game, so kudos to him.
You got my back?
I know, I have your back.
Okay, so I have a thing. I'm gonna be here, even after eviction.
Even after eviction?
Sam comes to me, and I think she's trying to tell me that she has the power this week.
Hi.
I need to influence her, but I don't need her knowing I'm influencing her.
I'm voting for Steve to stay.
You can't do that.
So which way am I supposed to go?
You need to vote for Sam. Because the power is with this group and it's going to be used. Like, if you don't vote for Sam, you on both
Me,
sides.
personally.
You.
Okay, now here's where things get frustrating for me, because I thought this next loophole I found was such a cool one when I first read about it. Like, super smart and very cheeky, but when I took a second look at it, it's clear that it was almost certainly unintentional. And even if it was on purpose, it didn't even work, but it intrigued me enough where I'm gonna talk about it anyways. When it comes to making your nominations as the HOH, there is a rule where you are not allowed to explicitly tell someone that you're going to nominate them. I think the idea behind this is to create more suspense and shock, because where's the TV moment if you tell the players you're going to nominate them hours before it actually happens? To counteract this, the players will use suggestive verbiage. So rather than saying, "Hey Barfbag, I'm going to nominate you," they would instead say, "Hey Barfbag, I'm thinking about nominating you." This is technically a loophole in itself, as you're just rewording your statement to get past the rules, but that would be pretty underwhelming if that was the loophole I was hyping up here. No. Instead, the loophole is actually abusing the wording of the rules to help you in the game. If you explicitly tell someone that you are going to nominate them, then Big Brother can intervene and prohibit you from putting that person on the block since you broke the nomination rules. Big Brother is very loose with enforcing this rule, as the only time it's seemingly ever been enforced was in Big Brother 12 during Brendan's HOH, where I guess he told Britney that he was going to nominate her, and Big Brother stepped in and stopped him from doing so. But what if you actively made an attempt to enforce this rule to keep someone safe? In week 8 of Big Brother 16, Frankie Grande was the HOH, and after winning the veto, he was going to use it to save Caleb and send Zach home, as everyone in the house was getting frustrated with Zach, and Frankie was feeling pressure to make the house happy and do what they wanted. The only thing is that Frankie and Zach had a very close friendship throughout the game. Their relationship was admittedly a roller coaster with lots of ups and downs, but they were supposed to be allies, and they were very close. However, it seemed as though Frankie had made up his mind, and he told Zach that he was going to name him as the replacement nominee. However, Frankie didn't use any suggestive verbiage. Frankie explicitly told Zach that he was going on the block. Many viewers recognized this and started theorizing maybe Frankie kept telling Zach he was going to nominate him in the hopes that the producers would enforce the nomination rule, therefore forbidding Frankie from putting Zach on the block. This way, Frankie could keep Zach in the game without facing any backlash from the house guests, since he literally wouldn't be allowed to put Zach up. In theory, this is actually pretty genius and a very clever loophole to try and push your game further by using the show's own rules against them. But unfortunately, I don't think that this was what Frankie was trying to do. I think he was trying to just nominate Zach, and he didn't care how he worded it. But I found the speculation about the loophole so interesting that I wanted to talk about it anyways.
Now that everyone thinks that Zach is the saboteur, I think this is too big of an opportunity to pass up. I have to get Zach out of the game this week.
I swear to God, if I get put on the block because you guys think I'm the saboteur.
We're on to you.
Zach is my best friend, and I really do love this kid. This is one of the hardest decisions that I've had to make, and I'm completely torn up about it.
I love you so much, and it'd be fun for you to stay, but if I don't put you up, I'm gonna look cray-cray. So Zach, my friend, please go and have a seat. It's time for you and Julie Chen to finally meet.
My best friend in the house puts me up on the block. It's not a good feeling.
You know what? I'm feeling a little off my rocker today. I have searched far and wide for anything that I could consider an intentional loophole that was also cool enough to talk about, and I can't seem to find anything. It sucks. This video is a mess now, so why not just embrace it? For this last one, instead of talking about an intentional loophole, I am instead going to defend a controversial moment from a past season and justify it using a loophole. If you remember before, I briefly mentioned that the only time Big Brother ever enforced the nominee rule was during Brendan's HOH in Big Brother 12. And coincidentally, this last loophole also takes place during that week. As the HOH, Brendan was presented with Pandora's box, to which he accepted, and his reward was that he was taken to a spa retreat for 24 hours of paradise. Since Brendan was rewarded, the other house guests were punished, and their punishment was that Rachel Riley, the previously evicted house guest and first juror of the season, was unleashed back into the house for 24 hours to torment the other players. This is when the Rachel and Reagan fight happened, so it was a very fun time, A+ job. However, since Brendan was away the whole time, Rachel never actually got to speak with him, but she still wanted to find a way to try and help him out. Rachel wanted Brendan to target Matt that week, so to make sure that the message got to him, she went to Brendan's HOH room, took out some pretzels, and spelled out Matt. After Rachel left the house and Brendan came back from his retreat, he saw what Rachel wrote to him and knew that Rachel wanted him to target Matt. Brendan then nominated Matt for eviction, and he would have been sent home had he not secretly had a diamond power of veto. But even so, this raised a lot of angry voices in the community. There is a direct rule that the players are not allowed to write anything inside the house whatsoever, and that includes using things that aren't pen and paper. Any communication has to be done verbally, so as to be picked up by the microphones. So it was a pretty big slap in the face that Big Brother not only allowed Rachel to write a message to Brendan, but then showed it off on the episodes like it was this big thing to be celebrated. Clearly, this is a direct violation of the rules and should not have been allowed. Except I disagree because of one teensy loophole. Rachel was not a player anymore. She was already evicted and was now a juror, not a house guest. So, the rules about players not being allowed to write to one another doesn't technically apply to her at this point because she was no longer a player. Is this BS? Yeah, totally, for sure. I think that you could very easily say that this is cheating, and I don't think any sane person would argue with you. But if I was a lawyer and looking at the fine print, I definitely think that you could twist this around and make the case that Rachel did nothing wrong in this instance, and that this pretzel incident was totally within the rules that Big Brother established at the beginning of the season. On a different note, a little birdie once told me that this may have been allowed, or possibly even pushed for, because someone or something wanted Matt to be nominated and forced to use the diamond power of veto in order to manufacture a good TV moment. But that's not my story to tell. Maybe another day.
I haven't seen Brendan, so I made a message in Pretzels on top of the HOH table. I want Brendan to put Matt up.
I made a message for Brendan, so make sure that nobody comes up here. Okay.
She left a message to she wanted to send out.
What's the sound? What other girl would leave a message in Pretzels?
Rachel left me a message in Pretzels, and I knew that she wanted me to put up Matt. So, you know, it kind of made the situation a little bit easier.
The replacement nominee is Matt.
And there we go. Going into this video, I thought for sure I would find a ton of fun loopholes to talk about. But dang, I struggled even coming up with these 5. But hey, that's bound to happen every once in a while. And I appreciate you sticking around throughout the video anyways, so thank you. If you're new to the channel and liked what you saw, consider subscribing to help me out. I, of course, need to give that extra special shout out to all of my YouTube members and patrons who wouldn't even need to find a loophole to win Big Brother. And, as always, here's a clip for you on your way out.
Mosey to the backyard and try to hold a handstand for 5 seconds.
Forget it. Ouch.